Flow helps you stay connected to what matters. Simple plans and a better network mean that you can enjoy 30 days of unlimited social messaging, 10 gigabytes of reliable data to use as you like, and 1,000 local anywhere calls and texts with the always-on prepaid plan, all for $100. Keep your number when you switch to St. Kitts' most reliable LTE network. Switch to Flow. It only gets better.
Good morning, and welcome to Voices for today, June 12th. Sorry about that little technical glitch earlier. So it was just a minor technical glitch here. Like I was saying before we took the break, we'll be jumping over across to Trinidad and Tobago to get a sense of what has been transpiring down there. We know COVID-19 as well as talk about elections in Trinidad and Tobago, and that's possibly going to be held in September. That's the discussions being had, according to media reports, as well as because the elections is constitutionally due for our understanding in December. But I'll have our good colleague from Trinidad and Tobago just to give us a sense of what has been going on down there in Trinidad and Tobago. We're actually joined by, by multimedia journalist Otto Carrington from Guardian Media, CNC3, the Guardian newspaper. Mr. Carrington, good morning.
Good morning and good morning, St. Kitts. How are you? How are you this morning?
We're good. We're good. You know, we're just still getting over the elections that we had on Friday.
Yes, indeed. Yes.
Yeah. So how's everything down in Trinidad?
Well, I know our lockdown is actually easing up. We're actually now going into our fourth phase of reopening the economy, and currently we are also preparing for elections. Elections, as you said before earlier, things are actually heating up on the political campaign. It's a bit different because what is happening actually is that we are in a position where we are doing things using technology, because one political entity has already started the steps of actually taking their political campaigns into a virtual setting, so there's a lot happening locally in Trinidad in regards to that. So that's where we are at this moment.
Okay, first up, when is elections constitutionally due?
Well, election is constitutionally due in September, and but the Constitution gives a 3-month period for that to happen. So what we have heard from Dr. Rowley, our Prime Minister, is that he's going to prorogue the Parliament in July. So between that period of time, we don't know the election. It can be any date. It can jump up at any time. So basically, we are just in a position where we actually are waiting an official day. But there are a lot of speculations going on. I'm hearing August, we're hearing September, but again, he has that date in his pocket, so we'll have to wait till he announces it.
Okay, I'm going to put you on the spot here. And it's something that we've all found throughout the Caribbean, and at least here in St. Kitts and Nevis as well. What is it, and how do people feel with the fact that prime ministers, presidents, everyone has that in their back pockets, that you can announce a date of elections when you feel? Because the same thing happened here in St. Kitts and Nevis. Parliament was prorogued, and then I think like the week after or a few days after, the Prime Minister announced, hey, look, elections is June 5th.
Yes. Well, you're going to get me into a mindset that, that is a similar mindset where I'm actually been saying this for quite some time. Constitutional reform is also needed, with some of the laws that we have adopted from our colony holders, especially from the British. So I agree. I think that a stipulated date should be set, rather so that there's a level of preparation, because to me, it also gives the opportunity, it affects the opportunity for the opposition parties and stuff like that, because, we know the date, we can prepare, we can strategize around date because it's all within ourselves. But when the date is announced, it's a stipulated date on the calendar. It allows for a level of fairness. But I mean, some people would beg to differ, but that is my opinion.
So the people are giving that same feedback on the ground there?
Well, yes. I mean, Trinidadians are actually, very political in regards of who goes into power, who goes in. I mean, there are two major parties here, the United National Congress and the People's National Movement, which is actually the incumbent government. So what is happening is that a lot of people have that sense, but not necessarily it's something on the forefront because we already within that culture that we know that our leaders or the party that is in power is the one in charge of actually putting forward the election date and stuff like that. So basically that is where we are. But I mean, it's something that it's a conversation that is actually happening within certain quarters of the legal sphere in Trinidad and Tobago.
So has the civil society organization, the NGOs, also voiced their opinion on this specific topic?
Well, they have, because there was some years ago a constitutional reform forum that was happening where we were actually looking at ways of implementing a new constitution, but I am not too sure where that would have gone. But I know civil society, non-governmental organizations, and even various support groups from within communities and also various organizations and associations across the island were actually taking part as well.
Okay, we would have seen in the era of COVID-19, what sort of measures are being taken now in light of the fact that St. Kitts and Nevis had elections, Suriname had elections as well in the age of COVID-19? What measures, what discussions are being had right now when it comes to staging elections under the COVID-19 regulations?
To be honest with you, at this time, I know that our elections is governed by the Elections Boundaries Commission of Trinidad and Tobago. So what is actually happening is that we are not sure as yet. I know that they are looking at a framework that will be implemented. I don't know if they may look at what happened in St. Kitts and take bits and pieces of that and then enhance it to our culture and model in Trinidad and Tobago. But it's something that is being discussed right now in regards to how we as a nation are going to operate when it comes into the next step of how do we operate in a new era, especially with COVID-19 and doing what we normally do, and this is part of our constitutional right as well.
Okay, Otto, stand by. We have to go pay some bills, acknowledge responses, and we'll come right back.
If you have one, hold it up and say, "What's the brother colors in my life? Refreshing and nice, and I drink that what we like. But stand you full of vibes, living full color, and I'm black and white. We do what we like, we live to enjoy life. Bust that, pour it up, different flavor. Load it up. If you have one, hold it up and say, "What's the brother colors in my life?"
Different. We're 98.9. 98.9. Win FM.
Flo's new combo plan, the people's plan.
That's a new combo plan. You can call anyone, no matter which network you dey on. Just use your Flow.
I want a combo, but not for my belly. I feel me cell phone, so me call anybody. Call Mr. Man, call Granny. On the island, Flow come combo.
Yes, there is no need for to force no more. Cause with Flow combo plan, you're paying less for more.
Flow got a new combo plan. You can call anyone, no matter which network you dey on. Just use your Flow.
Dial star 129 number sign to activate your combo plan today.
Welcome back to Voices for today, Friday, June 12th. I'm your host, Jermaine Abel, and we're discussing a bit of matters from Trinidad and Tobago, and we're joined on the line by our good colleague from the Guardian Media Group in Trinidad and Tobago, Otto Carrington. And he has so far given us an update in terms of when elections are due, electoral reform process, and so forth. And Mr. Carrington, we were talking about the age of COVID-19. Trinidad and Tobago has been one of two islands, basically, that has had triple-digit figures. Can you just give us a sense of how we got to that stage there in Trinidad and Tobago?
With regards to, I didn't hear you clearly.
Well, if you can just bring us up to date and the listeners in terms of how we reached the stage of Trinidad and Tobago getting to the point of triple-digit figures when it comes to COVID-19 cases.
Well, what has happened is that most of our cases are actually imported, because what would have happened is that our first case would have happened in March. And then what occurred is that we were getting cases in between, single, double cases. And then what would have carried us to that amount is that we would have allowed a cruise passengers from a cruise ship into the country, and they were actually quarantined when they came in. And I believe 40 something of them tested positive, and then we had other cases that would have imported just before we closed our borders. So that would have carried us to 100, and I think it was 117, 18, because we just had another isolated case last month where someone was given an exemption to come in with his ill daughter. And what occurred is that he contracted the virus while coming back into the country. But basically, I must commend our Ministry of Health, because I know that they have done their best. Sometimes you can't please everyone. There are some levels of hardship that some people actually face because some places were actually closed. Right now I'm in the city center, and you could hear in the background. About a few weeks ago, I would have been walking through one of the city centers, and it would have been a total ghost town. So things are actually returning to some level of normalcy, but still not as normal as we know it before. But we have been coping so far. I know some other islands have been doing the same as well, but our ministry had taken the approach of Ministry of Health, has taken the approach of using the science, as they say, in regards of managing and mitigating, and also reopening the economy to allow many who may be affected with their jobs and even things like school, because our school system reopens in September, and it has been shut down since March. So I know a lot of the students in our country has also been affected by COVID-19. And it's a global thing. It's a global thing.
So what about those who preparing for the CSEC exam? Because we know CXC had indicated the middle of July rather, to the middle or thereabout to the end of August for exams. How are those students coping, and are they back in the classrooms?
Well, what is actually happening is that the Ministry of Education and some schools and institutions have taken a direction where they are looking to the direction of using online learning. A lot of these students are actually using various platforms, just like Zoom, Skype, Google Classroom, a whole myriad of different online platforms. And I think many of them are actually using that as a form of getting themselves up to date with their syllabus and stuff like that. However, I know there was a bit of an issue regarding the July exams, that some people had little issues within various quarters. But I understand that, some people, some students are actually taking up the direction, going to the direction where they themselves want to do the exam in July, that the date stipulated by CXC.
Okay, I'm just going to poke fun here at one of your colleagues, but it's just going to lead into my next question. I know Akash had done a story, because I was looking at the news, and he did a story concerning KFC just when they were about to close. And there was a very long line, and the term has still stuck with me, finger-licking foolishness. Right? Yes, that's my new phrase, finger-licking foolishness. But in terms of businesses and food outlets, what are they like? Have they all reopened? And what new measures, protocols are in place?
What is actually happening, Jimmy, is that we have seen a lot of people, a lot of the restaurants locally are actually now. Yeah, sorry about that. A lot of the businesses and restaurants and food places are actually open, but they don't allow for in restaurant dining, and they allow for also only for drive-through and pick-up only. So I think that is the situation from the last time Akash had his story. I think that is the situation now as the most recent update.
So does KFC still have that long line? So and Akash hasn't gotten dinner as yet.
Yeah, well, well, well. The thing about it is that KFC, as you see from the syndicates aspect, where you're in syndicates, KFC plays a part in our DNA. So I think a lot of people were kind of panicking and concerned about what will happen. But I think it was just more, as you say, finger licking foolishness. But I think I think we're in a good place and people are actually abiding and following the regulations stipulated and the restrictions as well.
Okay, in terms of persons not adhering to the regulations, how have you guys seen that there in terms of has there been any arrest, charges laid against people?
Well, Joey, there has been some arrests here in Trinidad. What is happening is that we have seen arrests in people having parties because there are restricted numbers of gatherings and stuff like that. And people are going to beaches and also other tourist sites and stuff like that. And I think, yes, there have been arrests. I can't get a number. I can get that to you. I don't have a number off the top of my head, but there has been arrests locally for people breaching COVID-19 restrictions.
When I look at the numbers here, it's over 100 and roughly calling a figure over 150. And when we look at the revenue generation for the government, that's over $500,000. So in terms of going forward, what new measures, recommendations, reopening of the economy is Trinidad and Tobago looking at when it comes to COVID-19?
Well, I think that each sector is actually having discussions as to how they would reopen and what some of the framework and policies that they will put in place in regards of structuring their businesses and also to prevent any spread of COVID-19. So I think that there's a lot of different strategies that are being put in place. I mean, you can't pinpoint, it's so many different sectors here. So you have to look at various sectors by phases because as the government reopens the nation, you look at the different phases that is actually happening and what is so going on. Like from the 22nd of June, bars are opening, but bars are open with a level of social distancing and physical distancing. And as well as, you can't, mingle in more than a certain amount, due to the COVID-19, due to the restrictions. So there's a lot restrictions will be in place because again, it's not as before. It's not normal as before. Things are not. This will not be the same until until the world finds a vaccine or something like that.
Okay, just a couple more questions before I let you go. One, do you have, I don't know if you have the figures or if you can give us a rough number in terms of the deaths recorded in Trinidad and Tobago as of today, Friday, June 12th?
Yeah. Well, I can give you that figure. Right now we have had eight deaths, unfortunately. Again, most of those were imported. And it's still at that since, I believe in March, April or something like that. But it's sad to know that one day a relative is here and the next day they're gone. And I know one or two people through their relatives who would have passed as well. So it's sort of a sudden and it's a reality of what we actually facing.
So in terms of, I know CARFA is down there, and CARFA had a press conference sometime back. What's the latest in terms of CARFA and the numbers and their testing capabilities that they have right now?
All right. Well, what has happened is that the government has also issued CARFA to license some of our local private labs that would also extend the range of testing. So basically, what is happening is that yes, they are testing, but the government is also doing community testing as well. So what they're doing is that if you come into the health institution with any symptom, just to look for community spread. And so far, we have tested, I think, over 1,100. Just random testing. So I think that what is going to happen is that when the private labs come on licensed and regulated under CARFA, what will happen is that it will place more ability for us to test immediately and faster, and also still being governed by CARFA. And I think UE in St. Augustine they're also looking at becoming a testing hub as well to do research as well on COVID-19.
Okay, in terms of a second wave, what are the plans, mechanisms, protocols that the Ministry of Health has implemented to prevent or deal with in the event that a second wave do come to Trinidad and Tobago?
I'm sure that they actually had. I'm not sure because I know that they are preparing for the second wave, but I don't know what exactly is the strategies. I think when that happens or it comes into play, but it will be something that we would look at doing. I really can't say often, but I know they are working from the level of the science and from the Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Roshan Parasram. So I really can't say what will be our plans, but it's something that I think it will be again preparation or a level of thinking in that direction.
Well, Mr. Carrington, thanks for joining us here on Voices here in St. Kitts and Nevis.
Yeah, I really appreciate joining you guys in St. Kitts this morning. And it's a pleasure being here, and you'll have a great and wonderful day. And right.
Thank you. And do tell your colleague the term has stuck with somebody outside of Trinidad, the finger-licking foolishness. So thanks, Mr. Carrington.
Indeed. I'll share that, of course. All right, pleasure.
Thanks.
You'll have a great day.
Well, there you had it. That was Guardian media journalist, multimedia journalist Otto Carrington. He's primarily reporting for CNC3 News there. So he gave us an update in terms of what it's like in Trinidad and Tobago when it comes to COVID-19 and the impending general elections. As he would have indicated, the Prime Minister is looking to prorogue the Parliament next month, and he has there about 90 days, which is probably September, but the Constitution limits to December as the time for elections there in Trinidad and Tobago. But nevertheless, we continue with Voices here on Win FM 98.9.
Different. We're 98.9. 98.9. Win FM.
Mustn't forget the bop.
I see you like bop too.
If I'm cleaning the garage, I need bop.
One bop for the home and one for the office.
Bop insecticide, preferred for its proven performance. Bop's fast-acting, long-lasting. Bop stops both flying and crawling insects. Get serious. Get Bop.
Like us on Facebook, www.facebook.com/ramsupermarket. Follow us on Twitter, www.twitter.com/ramsupermarket. And subscribe to us on YouTube, www.youtube.com/ramsupermarket.
Flow helps you stay connected to what matters. Simple plans and a better network mean that you can enjoy 30 days of unlimited social messaging, 10 gigabytes of reliable data to use as you like, and 1,000 local anywhere calls and texts with the always-on prepaid plan, all for $100. Keep your number when you switch to St. Kitts' most reliable LTE network. Switch to Flow. It only gets better.
Quicks, please, many dishes and many more.
Quicks please, many dishes and many more.
Yes, Quicks please, many dishes and many more.
Just one spoonful of concentrated Quicks cleans your whole sink full of dishes. Quicks, clean.
Quicks means many dishes and many more.
Quicks, we wash more dishes.
Like us on Facebook, www.facebook.com/ramsupermarket. Follow us on Twitter, www.twitter.com/ramsupermarket. And subscribe to us on YouTube, www.youtube.com/ramsupermarket.
Welcome back to Voices here on Win FM 98.9. Again, I'm your host, Jermaine Abel, sitting in today. Well, it's an open mic, but I have a question that came to mind as we were speaking to our colleague from Trinidad and Tobago, Otto Carrington, and he mentioned constitutional reform when it comes to the staging of elections, and it's a problem or an issue that seemingly is arising not only in St. Kitts and Nevis but throughout the Caribbean, in the sense that we have presidents, prime ministers, and everybody deciding on a specific date for elections. And it seemingly, I don't know what to say, it's benefiting one party over the other. We go to the phone lines. Caller, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Brother Abel. How are you doing?
I'm well, Miss Henry.
Yeah, man, I'm glad to hear you are well. When you're young, you got to make sure you take care of yourself, you see? So when you get old like me, you'll still be around.
No, you're only as old as you feel, Miss Henry.
Boy, no. That is called self-deception. You're as old as your birth certificate.
But
no,
go
your
ahead.
spirit now is as old as you think.
That is true.
Now, this thing about election date, what we have to realize, it benefits the one in power. But setting a date becomes tricky when you are relying on overseas voters.
But Miss Henry, let's go there. So you're saying that if we set a specific time frame, it gives the overseas voters the opportunity to return home and vote.
Yes, and so therefore...
But let us look at it from the broader perspective of not only St. Kitts and Nevis, because as our colleague just mentioned there in Trinidad and Tobago, there's a concern over the lack of a specified date for elections. So it's not only limited to St. Kitts and Nevis, because one side here may benefit the other.
But you see, listen again. Now, if all the voters came from the U.S., because I've thought about it, you could easily set the date around a U.S. holiday when they have like a weekend or so. You follow what I'm saying?
Yes.
But when you have people coming from the U.K., their holidays may not coincide.
But let us look at it from this perspective, Miss Henry. If we set a specific date, let's say 5 years from now, 2025, let's say the government decides to reform the constitution, set a specified date for elections, and let's say it's happening on the 21st or the third Monday in March every year, the third Friday in August rather, every year. That now gives both sides the opportunity to prepare properly for an elections, as well as it gives, let's say we reform, or a reform has been done for overseas voting, it gives everybody a level playing field that if you are allowed to come in to vote, you come in to vote. But it also evens the playing field here in St. Kitts and Nevis in the sense that nobody will benefit from knowing that I'm going to call elections in 3 months' time, so I can start campaigning now. So I just think it's something that would level the playing field in the sense that nobody will benefit.
This concept of laying the playing field, I don't know where we get this laying the playing field business, because we go back again. We go back to what I was saying. If you choose a date, the date has nothing to do with us. It has to do because we are over-reliant. We in St. Kitts and Nevis are over-reliant on the outside vote to balance out, equal out. So it has to be set around what is convenient for them. So they're going to have to be some kind of observing the calendars of the people. So it isn't a matter of... So it becomes, what? Election for them?
So Miss Henry, if we decide if the government of the day decides to reform the constitution and say, look, we're not allowing anybody who's a citizen of the United States, Canada, Mexico, wherever it is, to come home and vote. Or we're saying anybody who would have migrated from St. Kitts and Nevis to whatever country, we're just going to keep it as a local elections. That is everybody who's in St. Kitts, we're going to keep it that way. So now, to that extent, it levels the playing field in that a year before that date.
You know that word?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, right? But what I'm just saying is look at it from a perspective, because it's going to be difficult for you now to set a specified date around when there's a holiday in the U.S. and when there's a holiday in the UK.
That way. I can't see it any other way. Because the crowd would be so big. If you could bring in 22 and maybe 27 between the opposition and the government, it has to be, you see, like how the 6 months and the 3 months debate, and people now saying, look, people are now saying, people in the States don't get no more than 2 weeks holidays. That is the argument I was hearing. They're now saying, look, you can't set the residency thing for no more than that. So it really has nothing to do with us.
But let us say we're looking at the overseas votes, right, Miss Henry? Okay, we set...
We're talking about setting the date.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So we're setting the date. Let's say we set it for August 20, the third Monday in August every 5 years. That's the elections date in the elections calendar. It can be called before that, but it cannot go later than that date. Then, don't you think if Jermaine is living in Australia and he knows that, look, elections is the third Monday in August in 2025, that I would plan around my calendar to come home and vote?
Well, the rational concept, they say in economics, that man is rational, the rational person will do that. But when you are depending on somebody to give you the ticket, you take it when they give you, and they are not going to give you ad hoc.
But
that, whenever the committee is set around. Now, what I would say, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's supposed to come at a certain date. It should come, say, within that week then. Give a week or so then. So, as the date approaches, for example, it should have come in August, right? That was the outer limit.
Yeah.
So you have between May and August. They could have said, look, we're going to have election in the middle, which are June, July, somewhere there.
Yes.
It could have been announced in advance. Now, as to how do you get an advantage, it's still questionable if there is if the border is closed where they're coming from and the border is closed where they're going to. You understand?
Miss Henry, the thing is, what I'm looking at is, so I have on my chest, so elections is due in August, and I have on my chest that Miss Henry, you should go out and begin campaigning. Jermaine, you should go out and campaign. John, you should start campaigning. I have not formally announced a date for elections. No, I sent my people out to begin the campaign work. Those on the other side now haven't started anything, but they've started minor groundwork in terms of reaching out to the people. Then I wake up tomorrow and I say, look, elections is at the start of the first day in July. How is that a level playing field?
No, I will use another word for a level playing field. If you see what happened in St. Lucia, have you heard about what happened in St. Lucia?
That there's discussion around elections?
Yeah.
Yes.
And nobody know the dates, but both the opposition, because they say it is not due till next year.
Yeah, it's not due until then.
Not due till next year. But they say from what the government is saying, it suggests that they're going to have elections soon. It behoves the opposition to get their organization up and running. You can't go and blame people for your own inefficiency. You know it was coming because what? You had February, I think it's February, the election was held in 2015.
You're talking about St. Kitts?
May. Then this concept of being caught off guard makes no sense. It doesn't make any sense. You had from February till now. Are you not ready? In St. Lucia, they said the government make a move and the opposition starts. That shows people who are ready, who understand. So this thing about level playing field. Long-term election, as I said, people in St. Kitts don't stop campaigning. There was no lull, It intensified since January because they knew that by February the term end. So there's a lot of talk about caught off guard. That is ridiculous. And you know it too.
But Ms. Henry, the question wasn't against the backdrop of the opposition here in St. Kitts and Nevis. The context of the question came out of the interview we were doing just now, a while ago.
No country, let me tell you.
But I was speaking in general in the sense that it's not limited to St. Kitts and Nevis where, prime ministers, presidents announce a date and there's no fixed date. It's just that as we look around the region, it seemingly is a problem that's developing. There's not adequate time frame.
Let me tell you something. Be honest. Governments change and each one call it a problem and they go in and they leave it, so?
Well, that's the point, Miss Henry.
Notice that?
That's the point. The buck has to stop somewhere. The buck has to stop somewhere because you can't tell me that you're campaigning and it's a problem for you while you're in opposition. Then now fast forward, you're in government and you realize, hey, look, it's benefiting me.
Don't stress yourself. You see a lot of things that people have called for when they're outside. Maybe you don't know, in 1996, when the party went in with integrity in public life, they said that was the first thing they're going to pass. 1996. It never passed till 2013. Then they carried halfway. Then the other one carried 3/4 away. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand that, but at what point do
maybe the young people, maybe people like you, because the old said they're not going to give up any advantage. We could talk from now till Jesus comes. They are not going to be, and the followers don't want to change either, The followers don't want to change.
But at some point it has to stop, Miss Henry.
So the young people, but if you listen to the last election, young people on both sides talking all
Miss Henry, I have to take a break now, but you can call in again because the discussion is lively concerning this topic. Right? All right. Well, there you had it. Miss Henry sharing her thoughts on the topic of electoral reform and reforming the whole process. But we have to take a break now.
Found the sound 99.9 Win FM.
Flows new combo plan, the people's plan.
Combo plan. You can call anyone, no matter which network you dey on. Just use your flow.
I want a combo, but not for my belly. I feel me cell phone, so me call anybody. Call Mr. Man, call Granny. On the island flow, come me.
Yes, there is no need for to force no more. Cause it flow combo plan, you're paying less for more.
Flow got a new combo plan. You can call anyone, no matter which network you dey on. Just use your flow.
Dial star 129 number sign to activate your combo plan today.
Welcome back to Voices, and we go straight to the phone line. Caller, good morning.
Good morning, Brother Abel. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, Brother Abel. You hear me?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, we're hearing you.
Okay, Brother Abel. I don't know how long you live in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. But let me tell you something, brother. The Labour Party get all 8. And when the campaign in 1995, the campaign for integrity in public life, boundary, fixing, and all those things the campaign for. You understand? And when they went in, I think they had mostly 5 seats with the NRP. And then the next election they get 7 seats. And the next election they get all 8. And none of them were the campaign about and talk what they want. Not one of those things do. Nothing put in place. Now, you're right, you know. I believe something needs to be done about whatever. Because it cannot stay all the time. Because people are getting more advanced in the politics and learning the politics now. And you cannot come all the time and try to feel you could check people doing the things like that. You know? So, when you look at it now, that this unity government get in there and they say they're going to do many things. Well, certain things don't get downstream yet because, you know, things take time to do and all these things. But it's with the supporters, right, that cause these things to happen. Because when the Labour government get in there and so long for 20 years, none of the supporters them ask for what they asking for now. They don't want to transfer the integrity in government, nothing to all that they're asking for. So he was in the way. He was in the favor to win the election that way. So it wasn't a problem for them. I am saying that Team Unity mustn't fix these things. Because there's a lot of things happening right now. Because this unity government has succeeded and campaigned in the virtual way and win the government. And all kind of negative things coming up. But I made to understand, you know. Because I don't know if you remember that 2010 when they said that they set up Mr. Lindsey Grant already married with a company they call Cambridge Analytica. You understand? What I made to is alleged now that they're trying to destabilize the government.
Caller, can we not go down that road? We're having a good discussion surrounding the topic of electoral reform. Let's just stick to the whole electoral reform topic.
Okay, but before I go, right? Before I go, I call in on the charities, right? The building board or whatever, the sustainable development or whatever, controlling the thing down there, the museum right down there for the circus, the old treasury.
Yeah.
The building, the arch is showing in. The arch conduct is showing in with this wall coming over. So I just want somebody to take a good go in the circus and take a good look at it before it falls on somebody. I want the charities to look at it because maybe nobody taking notice of it. Someone called me this morning, I was in town, someone called me this morning and I went to watch it. And I said, wait, that looked terrible. So anybody in the charity who can think, just try to get the place barricade off and do not let nobody walk there because the weather is really hot, and they say heat they bring earthquake. So we might get a little chill, and that might just break in and somebody might pass it, some people might pass it at the same time, and it fell on them. So whatever, the politics are always like that. And I don't know when the politics will stop like that. But I believe that this unity government we placed there, I believe that's the only way. Put away all the party politics and all the tribal politics and bring the people together. I believe that's the only way the country to go fair in the politics right now. And the people will get attention with a unity government going forward in the federation. No matter when the sales them come and say, the government is doing well. And by right, if they deserve a second term, I believe that for the performance in the first term, I believe that they deserve it. And the people see that they deserve it. That is what people are supposed to go vote on. Vote on performance, not vote because of party. And that is what happened to the Labour Party right now. You know, they have nothing to offer to the people. They was in there for 20 years, come with all kind of thing, campaign thing, and said they're going to be 15% and give this and give that, $1,500 and all these things. When he was there for 20 years, never had the idea to think something like
Carla, that. I thank you for your input there. Yeah, yes, we have strong views when it comes specifically to policies and initiatives that would have been in the various manifestos. But to bash those policies, you might disagree on them, but sorry, I can't agree with that at this point. But we go back to the phone lines. Caller, good morning.
Yeah, good morning. Hello, you could hear me?
Yes, we can. Good morning.
Yes, well, the politics of speaking, the gentleman will just speak. You have to go back to the past to explain what you really want to say. And I don't think that you're supposed to tell him that. But anyway, you is the host. That's all I have to say.
And we go back to the phone line. Caller, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Morning.
And good morning to all the listeners home and abroad. Charles Brown here. You are talking on a very interesting topic, constitutional reform. And don't forget electoral reform. We must And as I said yesterday on one talk, it must be done in the first 2 years of the second term. And with all the irregularities that we hear the opposition complaining about, it's pure rubbish and nonsense. Now, if you look at, I support the Unity Party, everybody know that, right? If you look at what Unity did, Unity was campaigning on what they have done, and that's what gives them the second term. And they did say one good term deserves another, and that's what the people did, because the people see that Unity did deserve a second term and the great performance of the first term. So when you hear all these irregularities, these are just cries of sorry, bitter losers. Now, on electoral reform, we know what all needs to be done. All the parties, all the organizations, all the individual persons have said we must fix our electoral system. We must adjust and upgrade our constitution. It is too long, it is too old, and it needs redressing. And we all know the number of things in the constitution. We all know the number of flaws in the electoral system that need addressing. And I'm going to be pushing my Unity government very hard on those two things. And not only that, the other thing we need is a national election day. It must be go into Parliament and pass that on this day is election. Don't care what day the day come on. This must be the last Prime Minister that was the last election, Prime Minister Dr. Timothy Harris, and who is now second-term Prime Minister. Last election, last Friday, must be the last time any Prime Minister has in the back pocket the election date. We need a national election date. And don't care even you put that in place, the sorry losers in the next election then still have a lot of confusion to say, oh, this and oh, that and oh, this happened in the election. Every time the opposition asks for something, the Unity government try their best to do it. When they go into Parliament to do it, they try to block it. So what we must do? That's the question. You guys in the media must ask the opposition, what the government must do. You say A, the government going to Parliament and try to do A, you have a problem with it. And if you could block it, you block it. But then you're still saying it's wrong.
Okay, Carl, if you could just keep it quick, I want to take one more call before I go for the news.
Here's my thing. The opposition, my boy, they need to do a post-mortem, both opposition seems to need it, and what is killing them. Because they're losing election after election, and they're losing worse and worse, and come to the children in Wasara. So they need to go and do a post-mortem on the party and find out what has killed them and keep them dead. I've gone the boy.
All right, thanks, caller. And this is going to be our last caller before we take break for headline news. Caller, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Abel. I see you're close to headline news, so I wouldn't keep it back. But very quickly, I thought I would agree with Ms. Henry in terms of this idea about not having a level playing field. My little take on this, for an instance, living in here in the U.S., your representative in the area that you would live, the congressmen, senators, they provide an office and they have a staff there. Anything wrong, you can always go. Even if they're not there personally, they have secretaries and representatives you can go and speak to. And for an instance, in St. Kitts, a lot of times you have this big ceremony of constituency offices being open. And then what happened after the election? What happened to those? Why are you having a reopening, opening of our constituency office? it's supposed to be open at all times, Mr. Abel, so that you will be in contact at all times with your constituents. You know, I parallel that to that of Jesus Christ when he was leaving. He told the disciples, be ready at all times because you do not know when I'm going to come. Now you would have an idea.
So, Carlo, would you agree with the idea that Representative Powell has indicated that he will open basically he's going to establish a constituency council sort of thing, whereby he'll be there, because that was one of the ideas he pushed forward, and he'll be there at least, if not once, twice a week, to meet with or, you know, just interact with the persons in the constituency.
I agree with him. I think Mr. Pat is even himself. And again, you know, the representative, how often can you see somebody? You have so many people and you have to travel. You know, you get a constituency allowance. What do you do with it? You need to have a staff there at all times. So you have in contact with you'll be in contact with your people. So when the election is called, you don't have to run around and telling them and promising this. You'll be always available. Maybe you personally, indirectly with a staff. You know what I'm saying? And it won't be that difficult. You keep in contact. Even if you think that you're supposed to have a fixed date and it's not, each party would have had, you know, chance to hold the reins of power and they did not. But into the opposition, you know, you call, you say, you ring the bell and then you make the bell wrong and now you're going to say if the playing field was not level. You are supposed to be connected with your voters at all times. So when the time comes, whenever it is called, there's not much to be done. That is my view on this. I see my alarm is going off for your news, so I have my news set. My alarm set for Winner FM, so
the system just showed me it's actually 12 o'clock. So thanks for calling. You can call back around 12:30 or thereabout to continue with the discussion. Well, there you had it. We'll break right now for the headline news here on Win FM. Join us again at 12:30 for another discussion.
You found the sound. 98.9. Win FM.
We now bring you the Win FM Headline News. The Win FM Headline News is brought to you by Caribbean Alliance, KDP Enterprises, The Grange, Carib Brewery, CNC Trading.
Shipping your cargo shouldn't be a hassle. It can be as easy as a single call to Amerijet International, your worldwide cargo transportation solution. We provide all the services you need to ship your goods anywhere in the world. Whether your shipment is fresh, frozen, large or small, alive or hazardous, you can count on Amerijet to deliver it safe and sound. Amerijet International, by land, sea or air. We get it there. For more information, visit us online at www.amerijet.com or call us at KDP Enterprises, telephone number 466-9595.
Did you know that the Grange Healthcare Facility is the first purpose-built non-governmental healthcare organization on St. Kitts, offering 24-hour nursing, therapeutic, and residential care for older adults? It's situated at Otley, 7 miles east of Vastair in beautifully landscaped surroundings. The Grange has a team of highly trained professionals and provides care that's rated as being comparable with UK and North American standards. The Grange offers varied accommodation to suit your individual needs, and our all-inclusive packages make the cost of care per hour the most competitive on the island. Services include convalescent care for all ages, daycare facilities for older adults, rehabilitation services, and training and continuing education for healthcare providers. For more information, call 466-5525 or 465-8020, fax 466-8221, or email thegrangehealth@gmail.com, or visit our website at www.grangehealthcarefacility.com.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
Protect your lifestyle with Caribbean Alliance Insurance. Till you walk with a local reputation and service for second to none. Securing you is our mission. People that you can trust, your business property, we got you covered. Motor or personal, whatever it is, we got you covered. 130 years in this business, we've got you covered. For all your insurance needs, visit or call us at 465-2631 or 469-5303. Delia Walwyn, people you can trust.
Without limits, happy and free. The skin you're in with no apology. The one to seize the day. Grab an LLB. Live, love, be. With LLB. Live, love, be. Live, love, be. Be who you know you can be. Grab an LLB. Live, love, be. Angostura, lemon, lime, and bitters. Live, love, be.
Barbados is returning to almost normal, Prime Minister Mia Mottley told the nation in an address on Thursday night. Prime Minister Mottley said the people of Barbados had, to a large extent, followed the protocols put in place to avoid the spread of the coronavirus and should be rewarded for that.
I'm happy to affirm that our workforce has eased back into work mode without incident, and that public transport, for the most part, has been generally safe, with commuters adhering, for the most part again, to the rules and regulations. We also removed the alphabetical system of shopping, and even though today there is still a bit of congestion with respect to the banking sector, I think we would all agree that things are panning themselves out. I have a few thousand more workers in Barbados ready and eager to return to work, and chief among them are also public officers and employees of state-owned enterprises. Still adhering to the social protocols, I would wish as of tonight for the relevant heads of department and services to put into gear systems for further return to work on the phased basis that we have been using, recognizing that there will still be some limitations as with those who can be physically accommodated within the framework of adequate physical distancing, and of course with the new protocols that we have been settling in the public service to allow for a greater degree of flexible work. The Minister of Health and Wellness, Jeffrey Bostic, summed it up brilliantly yesterday when he pointed out to the country that the crux of the matter was our ability to manage and to respond to the circumstances, or as I had put it before, managing risk.
The business sector is also being given due consideration, Prime Minister Mottley confirmed.
As of Monday, we shall commence the process of welcoming a number of other state-paid employees back to work. By the same token, with respect to the private sector, several new protocols have been formulated, and the methodology for a safe and functional return to work in most spheres of social and economic activity has been outlined. And I will give you a sense of some of these, but this will be followed up formally as we go forward by the right officers. Therefore, as of June 15th, and subject to the strict adherence to the prescribed health protocols, which the government has worked on in conjunction with the private sector and the union movement, all businesses, third sector entities and organizations shall become eligible for permission to open and operate as normal. I've stopped short of giving carte blanche permission because it is vitally important that each entity signs on to and reflects adaptation to the necessary protocols.
The Barbadian leader also explained what will now obtain in the transportation sector.
The big one, PSVs and buses, will operate at full seating capacity as of Monday and with half of any stipulated standing capacity. The officials have not come to this lightly, but have indicated to the government that the risk of having persons standing in a bus is no greater than the risk with persons who are sitting beside each other, and hence the permission now for standing. The one consideration specifically and to be dealt with firmly is that persons must wear masks throughout the entire journey.
Prime Minister Mia Mottley of Barbados.
The three successful candidates from the Concerned Citizens Movement are saying thanks to their constituents for the opportunity to take the history-making Friday to Bastille when the dust settled from the polls. On Saturday morning, the party took all three of the federal seats up for grabs at the 2020 general elections. In that victory, the party took home the coveted constituency 11th seat. Newly elected representative for constituency 10, Eric Evelyn, is looking forward to participating in the federal cabinet.
Everybody came together and did a marvelous job, and it was a convincing victory as usual. And I want to say thanks to all of the wonderful people who worked with me and all of the persons who came out and supported me on election day. I want to just assure you that I have not disappointed you so far in the Nevis Island Assembly, and I assure you that I will provide quality representation for the people of Nevis and St. Kitts in the federal cabinet as well. So I just want to let you know that I will represent you well in the federal parliament.
First-time federal representative for constituency 11, Alexis Jeffers, says the work for the people of Nevis starts now, though he is not yet in the parliament.
Because it's all about representation and providing honest, decent and proper representation, something that has been lacking for many years. So I want to thank the people of St. Thomas Parish and the people of St. James for entrusting their confidence in me, and to assure me and the CCM party that we are the right persons and the right party to represent this beautiful island in the federal parliament, because I did make the commitment to at least do one thing over the next 5 years. And you know me, Mark, I will get much more than one done. But at least if I get one thing done, it will be more than what the other individual would have done for the last 20 years in the constituency of Nevis 11. While I'm on that, I want to say that you did indicate that this was a record-breaking election in many ways. We talk about the virtual campaigning, and I believe when we came up with the idea of going to the Caribbean Cove, it was one that we felt we would have done so, but others would follow, yes, but it was one that I considered to be a low-budget type of campaign that we would have put on, but an effective one also, because the message was on point.
Speaking to the historical nature of the elections, Jeffers, who is the Deputy Premier, describes the win as a shock for the Nevis Reformation Party. He outlined some of the inroads the party made in the lead-up to the 2020 general elections.
No one from the CCM would have won that seat before, much less win a box in St. Thomas Parish, until we did so in 2015. We would have lost that box in Craddock Road back in 2017, and also earlier this year during the by-election. And the commitment we made to ourselves was to win back that box, but not only do that, but to set some targets so as to ensure we'll get across the line this time. What I will say from the get-go, when it was established that our borders were closed and we were dealing with quote-unquote a local election, so to speak, with local voters, we determined at that point in time that we had an excellent chance, because, you know, the rhetoric then was that we were dependent on the overseas votes. And I will say now, and I said then, that the party that depended heavily on the overseas votes was the NRP, and it certainly showed during this election.
The two were speaking on Vaughan Radio's On the Mark program. According to the Deputy Premier, the elections have taught him that there's an important need to look after the people in the constituency. The government has not given any timeline on when the new ministers will be sworn in and when they will take up their positions.
A caller's question to a Nevision politician about the status of the Charlestown Accord between the three political parties in the Team Unity Coalition has sparked off debate about the current state of that accord between PAM, CCM and the People's Labour Party. The response from Dr. Kelvin Daly of the Nevis Reformation Party to the caller on Freedom FM Tuesday was to suggest that although Nevis now has 3 representatives in the federal parliament instead of the 2 it had before, they are likely to be less influential than their predecessors. Some say the argument as having merit. Others, however, are dismissing it as pure nonsense.
So it was, to me, it was a bit kind of off when I heard Dr. Daly making his statement, and it is not numbers, it is power. You could have all the numbers, it is who has the power. When I hear him, I say, he can't be serious. He cannot be serious. We cannot be illogical. To me, they got more power now because they have 3.
So what exactly did Dr. Daly say that sparked this outrage?
But the problem now is 2 is now more than 3 in real leverage power. I mean, I wish the mathematics wasn't like that. But as it stands now, I mean, the Team Unity government, excluding CCM, has 6 seats. So with that kind of optic, with that kind of math, really and truly, we had a better chance of leveraging St. Kitts prior to this election than now. Because then you can pass whatever legislation you want without the assistance of Nevis. You can do whatever you feel without the assistance of Nevis. Unless there's a supermajority needed for a particular piece of legislation having to do with any modification of the Constitution, you could do it without Nevis. So what leverage do our leaders have now? They have gone with 3, but they're down there with less power than they had prior. So it is left to be seen what will be the outcome. What is going to become a Nevis in a situation like that? Does the Prime Minister then act magnanimously and say, listen, we are in a position to either squeeze Nevis or to help Nevis? I hope he chooses the latter.
On Win FM's Voices program Thursday, callers were clearly at odds on the issue. Some didn't think much of the Daly position.
It's illogical to think that because the Nevis portion of the unity construct now has 3 seats, that they're at a disadvantage. Why would I want to pass legislation living in the same house with the same family that would disadvantage that family? It's illogical.
The other thing, without an agreement, the Constitution make it clear. I do not think a lot of people understand our Constitution. It says what should be when it comes to the governance of St. Kitts. What the federal government is responsible for both islands, and what the Nevis Island Administration is responsible for Nevis. Unfortunately, Nevis has a local government. St. Kitts does not. Okay? St. Kitts doesn't have one. So at the end of the day, the Constitution speaks to how the government should be, what should be the allocation of everything, and therefore the federal government is responsible for both St. Kitts and the Nevis. So even without an accord, the federal government is still supposed to fund certain things for Nevis. Failure to do so, if Nevis requests for help from the federal government, they can sue the federal government if need be. And these are the simple things we fail to understand, because the federal government is responsible constitutionally for the entire country of St. Kitts and the Nevis.
Along the same lines you go in, though, why did the 3 parties feel the need to make a Charlestown Accord? There was this suggestion earlier that Nevis wasn't getting its fair share.
But you see, it boils down to who works the system. And therefore, even without that, the Constitution said, but if some person sees best not to follow the Constitution, then if they didn't know now, and that's why it's a lot of persons who should know the Constitution do not know it, the Nevis Island Administration then could have sued the federal government.
There were others, however, who insisted that Kelvin Daly had a position worth supporting.
I think that Mr. Brantley was indeed expecting more leverage when he campaigned on bringing 3 seats to the federal parliament. Okay, he specifically said, I think it was in Barbados, that he wanted to do that to be a kingmaker. Okay, that implies more leverage. The hard fact is that the CCM was needed to pass legislation in the last parliament, and that is no longer the case. So they have indeed lost leverage. Okay, that is what I think Mr. Daly was alluding to.
And a lot of people now realize the effect that the Constitution should have when it comes to governance. Why then was a Charlestown Accord signed? More importantly, for Nevis to get what they are supposed to get. During the last 5 years, which reigned supreme? Charlestown Accord or the Constitution. Let us all be reminded that even though the Constitution states this and states that in terms of the revenue sharing, and let us focus on the CVI. Remember, Mr. Brantley has said many times that the amount of monies that they have received is not the amount that they should have really gotten. They got less than what the Constitution said.
The Charlestown Accord was drawn up in 2014 between the People's Action Movement, Nevis's Concerned Citizens Movement, and the People's Labour Party, with the CCM putting forward one of its conditions as agreement on ensuring that Nevis gets its fair share of the federal pie. The stated intention that these funds should come from foreign revenue obtained under the Citizenship by Investment Program funds channeled into the country's Sugar Industry Diversification Foundation, SIDF. That coalition thrust stemmed from Nevis officials arguing that Charlestown was being starved of federal funds by the then Denzil Douglas administration in Basseterre. The coalition accord reportedly emphasized that Nevis would get its fair share under a Team Unity administration. Current Premier Mark Brantley, while conceding that things have improved significantly because of the accord, has said on occasion that Nevis is still not benefiting as fully as it should from the federal purse.
After 3 months, there is still no government in Guyana, and likely the wait could be longer for a president to be sworn in. Citizens and residents in the sister Caribbean member state went to the polls on March 2nd, and the results have been marred with recounts and claims of voter fraud. Representative from the incumbent APNU plus AFC coalition in Guyana, Aubrey Norton, is one who has been highlighting some of the claims of irregularities found from the recount process completed on Monday.
Well, first of all, one has to understand the context. You're aware that both political parties contended that they would have won the elections. CARICOM then came in, and there was an agreement between the president of Guyana, Sir David Granger, and the opposition leader that there will be a recount. The opposition wanted a mere recount of ballots. The government said, no, we believe a lot of fraud occurred, and so we want a thorough recount in which we reconcile all the documentation with the ballots in the box. In the Ghana election system, there are a number of documents that must be in the box. One, a polling book, which tells you exactly what happened on election day. Two, the list of electors. This is important because it is on that list you strike out of those who would have voted. One region, Region 4, there were 41 boxes which had no documentation at all. It did not have OLE, official list of electors. It did not have the extra ballots that should be there. It had nothing. All it had was votes for the PPP. No document to say John Charles or Shelley Narain voted for the PPP, just the ballots. Now that is the equivalent of about 11,000 votes. And so we said readily that this is clear fraud. But this came to the end as we went through every region, 1 to 10, every district, 1 to 10. Remember, Guyana uses a proportional representation system and not first past the post like in the rest of the Caribbean. And in every region you went, we found a number of things, this is the Elections Commission, that suggests that there was fraud.
Norton was speaking on Voices Wednesday. Former government minister and representative for the opposition People's Progressive Party, Priya Manichan, refuted the claims of voter irregularities, including the suggestion that the dead voted. Despite the claims of discrepancies in the process, officials from the embassies and high commissions of the ABCE countries in Georgetown are suggesting that the recount was fair and the winner should be sworn in. However, Norton tells Win that the coalition will support fresh elections based on the irregularities found.
It is clear to all who would want to see that the list we have in Guyana is not a reflection of the resident population. I don't want to get involved in what length of time. That is a GCOM decision. But the reality is that we have to do a proper house-to-house registration so that we can have a credible list. It is difficult, well nigh impossible, to have credible elections if the list isn't credible. More so in a society in which people can use the excess persons on the list to carry out fraudulent acts. I believe once we agree, the government and opposition can sit and work out how we move forward and to ensure that we revamp the electoral system, create one that is credible, a list that is credible, and then we can go to elections, all of us satisfied that we have a fair machinery.
For Choice News Now, Nelsia Shalmang reporting. Small towboat operators are among the growing group of people who say that they have been disadvantaged not just by the COVID-19 pandemic, but also by the measures that the government has put in place to deal with the public health threat. On Monday morning, we spoke to the president of the newly re-energized Tourist Transport Providers Association.
We were faced with a situation, or rumored situation, that the relevant authorities in the Ministry of Tourism were attempting to only have catamarans being the only vessels operated upon once the tourist industry reopens. So then we obviously had to pencil a letter, which I did at the time as a non-member of the association, and we asked the relevant questions to the Ministry of Tourism and SLASPA.
Vitalis explained that at the time he had three main concerns. This was the main worry.
The rumored idea of the just catamarans operating, when we small boat operators are the majority in this business, it was of grave concern to us that somehow we've been overlooked, we've not been consulted, and a minority, albeit the bigger boats in the form of the catamarans, were the ones that was consulted. We pay on average $2,500 for licensing to the government. Insurance is on average between $10,000 to $15,000. So we do a massive contribution in the industry, and we couldn't understand why we've been overlooked as far as just the catamarans were the only vessels that would be allowed to operate.
Vitalis says that the boaters have since had a meeting with Tourism Minister Dominic Fede and Permanent Secretary Donalyn Vite. However, he says there are still some grey areas. Vitalis says that there was also a need for the boaters to organize themselves as they are also battling another touchy issue.
We are well aware that there is a gentleman here who's come since, an American guy, and he's bought a boat and to do a ferry service between Vieux-Fort Airport and the north of the island. Now, we've seen this game at play many times, and we're not the main beneficiaries in this thing. So we're very wary of what was going on. We asked questions the same way, and yet still those questions were dodged.
Vitalis says that operations by boaters like himself have been halted for nearly 3 months as the borders were closed until recently and tourists were unavailable to book tours. He says that many tour operators are losing out.
There is a need for safety, we can understand that. But our call is, if we want to reopen this thing, it has to be done in a way that is transparent, fair to absolutely everyone involved, so we can all get whatever little benefits that is coming our way the minute this thing's open, and it's not exclusive to just a minority. We are also aware that some catamarans have, or operators have started putting their protocols in place, of which we haven't received anything from the Ministry of Tourism, or for the relevant authorities for that matter. So wherever they got the information from, I have no idea. They're obviously privy to information that we don't.
We have tried to contact both the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Tourism as well as the Minister of Tourism to find out where things stand for small tourboat operators. Neither answered the several calls that we placed to them on Monday.
محمود عبد الواحد الجزيرة ترهونة.
Whenever a mass grave is found in Tarhuna city, Mahmoud Hruda rushes to look for members of his family. He says local pro-Haftar fighters known as the Al-Khani Brigade kidnapped and killed his 2 brothers, 3 sisters and 3 cousins.
I'm aware that my brothers, sisters and cousins are all dead. We also found 34 women dead in the morgue in the main hospital. There are also children.
Dozens of bodies have recently been found on the outskirts of Tarhuna, some at this farm. They'll have to undergo forensic examination and have DNA samples taken. In April last year, Haftar's fighters launched a military campaign to seize the capital Tripoli. But last week they lost their stronghold of Tarhuna and have now been driven out of western Libya by forces loyal to the internationally recognized government. Witnesses have told the General Prosecutor's Office that Haftar's fighters killed hundreds of opponents, including women and pro-government captives. The Al-Khanis also turned some of their military camps into detention centers. On the walls, portraits of Mohsen Al-Khani. The government says he is the most notorious of the commanders who carried out executions.
Everyone who was brought to this camp after April 4th last year disappeared. When we liberated the city, we found some of the murdered captives in this camp.
The government is now trying to restore infrastructure that was damaged or destroyed by the war. But the social rift caused by Haftar's fighters in the city will likely take a long time to repair.
For more than a year, Tarhuna city was a base for Haftar's fighters to attack Tripoli. Now, as the government tries to bring life in the city back to normal by pulling out its forces and calling for displaced civilians to return home, the victims' families say they are waiting for justice to be served.
That was the Win FM Headline News, brought to you by KDP Enterprises, Caribbean Alliance, Carib Brewery, CNC Trading, The Grange.
Without limits, happy and free. The skin you're in with no apology. The one to seize the day. Grab an LLB, live, love, be. With LLB, live, love, be. Live, love, be. Be who you know you can be. Grab an LLB, live, love, be. Angostura, lemon, lime and bitters. Live, love, be.
Protect your lifestyle with Caribbean Alliance Insurance. Tilly the wall with a low reputation and service for second to none. Securing you is our mission. People that you can trust, your business, property, we got you covered. Motor or personal, whatever it is, we got you covered. 130 years in this business, we've got you covered. For all your insurance needs, visit or call us at 465-2631 or 469-5303. Delia Walwyn, people you can trust.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects or sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
Did you know that the Grange Healthcare Facility is the first purpose-built non-governmental healthcare organization on St. Kitts, offering 24-hour nursing, therapeutic and residential care for older adults? It's situated at Otley, 7 miles east of Vastair in beautifully landscaped surroundings. The Grange has a team of highly trained professionals and provides care that's rated as being comparable with UK and North American standards. The Grange offers varied accommodation to suit your individual needs, and our all-inclusive packages make the cost of care per hour the most competitive on the island. Services include convalescent care for all ages, daycare facilities for older adults, rehabilitation services, and training and continuing education for healthcare providers. For more information, call 466-5525 or 465-8020, fax 8221 or email thegrangehealth@gmail.com or visit our website at www.grangehealthcarefacility.com.
Shipping your cargo shouldn't be a hassle. It can be as easy as a single call to Amerijet International, your worldwide cargo transportation solution. We provide all the services you need to ship your goods anywhere in the world. Whether your shipment is fresh, frozen, large or small, alive or hazardous, you can count on Amerijet to deliver it safe and sound. Amerijet International, by land, sea or air. We get it there. For more information, visit us online at www.amerijet.com or call us at KDP Enterprises, telephone number 466-9595.
WINN is 98.9. 98.9 is Win FM.
When is the last time that you've had lunch or dinner away from home? The ambience of Sweet Cane on Port Zante provides you with that touch. Sweet Cane daily specials include burgers, wraps, soup, and tasty seafood dishes. Sweet Cane also caters for events and special parties. Call our Sweet Cane hotline at 465-4345 or 665-7628. Sweet Cane, they've got the touch.
This is your local weather forecast brought to you by Sweet Cane. Here is your local weather forecast for St. Catch and Nevis, valid up to tomorrow, Saturday 13th June. Synopsis: mostly sunny tomorrow into the night with a few clouds from time to time. Today's weather: winds are east-southeast at 11 miles per hour with a 10% chance of showers. Later tonight, winds are east-southeast at 9 miles per hour with a 20% chance of showers. Sunrise tomorrow, 5:33 a.m. Sunset, 6:41 p.m. This has been your local weather forecast for St. Kitts and Nevis, valid up to 8 a.m. tomorrow. Brought to you by Sweet Cane.
When is the last time that you've had lunch or dinner away from home? The ambience of Sweet Cane on Port Zante provides you with that touch. Sweet Cane daily specials include burgers, wraps, soup, and tasty seafood dishes. Sweet Cane also caters for events and special parties. Call our Sweet Cane hotline at 465-4345 or 665-7628. Sweet Cane, they've got the touch.
We're different. We're 98.9. 98.9 Win FM.
Good afternoon. Welcome back to Voices here on Win FM 98.9. I'm your host, Jermaine Abel, and this is our second hour of Voices. Just before we acknowledge our sponsors, we'll just hear quickly from this caller. Caller, good afternoon.
Just a minute, so let me just come on the radio. Sorry about that. Okay, you're Abel, right?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I just have an opinion. I am one of those people who believe in expressing my opinion. Some people don't agree with it. I'm going to try to do it in the best way I possibly can. I believe that when political parties, and I've been saying this all along, until one person called me and said I shouldn't say it. The station does not belong to any political party. The community centers does not belong to any political party. And I believe that all political parties should have access to the station, and all should have access to and I've been saying this all to the community centers. But when a political party promise things that I think is unrealistic and a caller called to talk about it, I don't think he should be told that he's rubbing it in. When you're going to promise me that all householders are going to get, all householders, whether you're working or not, they didn't say whether you're working with government or you're not, going to get a credit note for $3,000 where you can go and pay your light bill, water bill, your NHC, and mortgage. I think that's what they said. They didn't say food. But then I'm working in government. You're still going to be paying me a salary. And I believe that is unrealistic. And if a caller call to mention this, I don't think he's rubbing it in. He's just expressing an opinion. And the thing about politicians is that they make all these fantastic offers to people in an effort to buy votes, which they know they may not be able to live up to. So, Mr. Abel, with all due respect to you, I don't think a person is rubbing it in if they call and say that I disagree. I don't think that is correct. You know, some of these offers are unrealistic just to get votes. And when you go there, when you get the votes and you're going, these things don't happen. I mean, the boundaries and all those things that is supposed to be done. These things have been going on for years. I don't know when they're going to do it, but, a man is just expressing his opinion. My opinion is that is unrealistic, and politicians shouldn't be doing this kind of thing. To me, it's like fooling people. I know of a case where a credit note was given by a party. I wouldn't go into that because I already said it before. But this particular person, after I saw it, he didn't move on time. And the credit note expired just before the election. Politicians shouldn't do these kind of things here. They do it to win votes, and in most cases they realize that it is unrealistic. And to say it doesn't mean that you're rubbing it in. You're just, expressing a fact.
Okay, so Colin, let me just ask one quick question. You mentioned all of that you said, basically. But what I want to get from you is, at what point do people stand up and say, hey, look, you made these promises, and you, either government, whether it be those now or those who are in opposition, when do you stand up to say, look, you promised these things, we see these things as being essential to the governance of St. Kitts and Nevis, or any country in the region, and we need these to be implemented, whether or not it be ASAP or within a specific time frame? At what point do you do that?
Well, you see, that's the trouble. The party that's made those promises are not forming the government, so I can't really make an opinion or give you an answer to that. The government that made, which is the Labour Party, that made those promises, they're not the one who is in government. This government, as far as I know, didn't make that particular promise. They said, okay, we will do that too. You understand my point, sir?
I was not limiting the response to or generalizing it to one specific party, because we can go on both sides to say, the current administration promised X amount of policies, legislation that they were proposing to implement. But I'm speaking in general, because we can acknowledge that both sides would have either promised something and they didn't get it.
Yeah.
So what I'm asking is, I'm trying to get is, at what point do we see consistent administrations? And again, I'm not limiting it to St. Kitts and Nevis. I'm just saying that we heard promises, discussions, we had talks were held, and then you don't get what were promised implemented within a specific time frame. And then the administration come out, another administration coming, the administration change, another administration coming, and we still don't get that. At what point do at what point do voters and people say, look, you promised these things and we really need to get these things implemented?
You see, it's difficult for me to say that, right? Because they all make all these promises, and when they go in, they still don't deliver. So it is very difficult for me to say that. I mean, they can't make all these promises and deliver all of them. It's impossible for them to do that. I mean, you may deliver some, you may not deliver the ones that people are looking for, but like I say already, Mr. Abel, it's going to be very difficult for me to give you a direct answer because, like I said, politicians make a lot of promises and they don't deliver. I think that well, you see, I don't really want to go into it with Unity and what they say they were going to do, and I think they deliver most of what they said they was going to do. There are some that they didn't deliver. I would assume that with the second term they will deliver it. It's left to be seen. So I mean, like I said already, politicians are human beings, Mr. Abel, and they're going to make a lot of promises to get votes. And it's not all of them they're going to be able to put in place. You understand my point?
I understand you, Colin. I understand.
Because when I heard you say rubbing it in, I got the impression that the person was just saying these things that they promised that they didn't deliver, and you said, you know, you disagree. That's the impression I got, that they were rubbing it in. Well, you need to rub it in because they are working for us. We're not working for them. We put them there to work for us, and then we feel that what they're doing is not pleasing to us. We have a right to call them out to it. You understand my point? I mean, if you get on and you're being disrespectful, then I could understand that you say, no, we're not going to go down that way. And you have done it, and other people have done it, and I totally agree with it. But if you're going to call out a man who says, well, look, don't go that way, you need to call them up for what they do. There's a woman that comes on, and she said a lot of things that people don't agree with, but that's her opinion. And people must respect people's opinion. If I say something that you don't like, you shouldn't call to bash me because you understand my point, sir? I mean, I respect you a lot. I like the way you run the program. But, you know, you got to call a spade a spade. I mean, politicians are human beings. They're going to say things. They're going to lie to us. They're going to say things that is impossible. But that is just to win a seat. You understand my point?
I understand your caller.
Okay, you take care. So
thanks.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Okay.
Okay, right, bye.
Well, that caller had views there, and we accept his views. But like I said, we will take a break now to acknowledge our sponsors, SL Hotspurs and Company, Flow, and Quartz.
Found the sound 98.9 FM.
This is an unprecedented announcement from Horseman's. Get up to $30,000 off and pay zero VAT on top of that. It's Horseman's Automotive Unprecedented Sales Event happening now. Yes, for the first time ever, you get up to $30,000 off and pay zero VAT on top of that. Yes, pay zero VAT and get up to $30,000 off on top of that. This has never been seen before. Unprecedented savings at the Unprecedented Auto Sales Event at Horseman's Automotive. Up to $30,000 off and pay zero VAT on top of that. Let me repeat, up to $30,000 off and pay zero VAT on top of that. Don't miss it. It's unprecedented. Terms and conditions apply.
Flow helps you stay connected to what matters. Simple plans and a better network mean that you can enjoy 30 days of unlimited social messaging, 10 gigabytes of reliable data to use as you like, and 1,000 local anywhere calls and texts. With the always-on prepaid plan, all for $100. Keep your number when you switch to St. Kitts' most reliable LTE network. Switch to Flow. It only gets better.
Why not stay in? Turn off the alarm clock and sleep some more on your perfect mattress from Quartz. For the widest range of mattresses from the world's best brands, the best value guaranteed. Shop today and let our sleep experts help you to decide on the best option to suit your needs. At Quartz, we don't just sell mattresses, we're offering you the best night's sleep. So, sleep in a little on your new mattress from Quartz. Quartz, bringing value home.
Welcome back to Voices, and we go straight to the phone lines. Caller, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Jamin.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, Jamin. After this successful election campaign by the Unity put out, everybody had opportunity to go out there and lay the foundation with the campaign. Now the Unity government has been they see them successfully. You understand? And they farm the government again. When they were out there campaigning, all kind of people was coming on the talking all kind of negative things about this government. Campaigning, okay, everybody know that's the election of campaigning. Everybody try to bring down. Now the people them see that. Not like that go so. And the people them went and they elect a Unity government back. And now you hear all kind of negative talk since the government win. But the Charles Tucker card, how much money it's going to get if the Charles Tucker card still in place? Do anybody hear the Prime Minister?
Somebody was on here. Well, sorry, we had some issues there. We kind of lost that caller there. But nevertheless, we understand what the caller was saying. For the second half of the program, we'll be talking a bit of agriculture in the age of hurricane, because we're in the hurricane season. We'll go back to the phone lines. Caller, good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Caller, good afternoon. I guess we lost that caller, dear, but do call in. Yes, as I was saying, we will be connecting with the Director of Agriculture, to basically discuss the plans and stuff that they do have in place for the hurricane season. But in the meantime, we'll take a break and we'll come right back with the Director of Agriculture, Melvin James. Okay, before we take a break, we'll go back to the phone lines. Caller, good afternoon.
Hey, good afternoon. How are you?
I'm well, good afternoon.
Yeah. You know what I have realized? In a way, we cannot really blame the politicians. I think a lot has to do with the people, the electorate. And the reason why I say that, prior to 2015 election, many persons had an issue with some policies and what was happening and so on, you know. We felt the squeeze. And many of us cried out. And the voice was loud and clear. Never again. We don't want some of these things to happen again. They were adamant. The persons elected or they voted for a team that says, look, we're tired of this. Yes, we experienced some of that too and whatsoever. You know, we're tired of it. We are going to make a change and hold our feet to the fire when we go in. I don't know how long it takes to implement good governance measures. But like I have said many years ago, and it has sealed even more now, I realize that many people, they were not really for the country on a whole and the development of it and, you know, the human development, everybody across the spectrum. I don't think so. I have seen it now. It's more about personal interest. Because the thing about it is, many persons who cried out against certain things, right, when they got what they wanted in terms of whether a change of leader, as the case may be, the same thing happened. And they then supported it. And then they go back in the past and say, well, this happened before, it never changed, you know, and they had so many years, and now this is only a few years and whatsoever and whatsoever. You see? They have forgotten, or they choose to forget, or they have selective memory, what they cried out about. Now, I have looked at it and I have realized if the people really is of one mind and they were serious and they said, listen, we say this is what we want and we want it. No, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that other things are not done in the meantime because other things are expected to be done. Don't get me wrong. You might be in favor of a group, but that doesn't mean that if you put them in there to do A, and you know A is important to good governance and how they manage the affairs of the country, and they're not doing it and you know A can be done within the first year, that doesn't mean that you cannot tell them, hey, look, no. We want this done and stand fast. But you see, what happened is this split, this divisiveness. It's all right when it is happening because maybe I am benefiting now. I'm getting what I want because I realize this is the problem with many persons. They see somebody else on the other side benefiting and they feel like they're not benefiting, so they feel like it is my turn now. I want my share. So when the table is turned and I'm getting what was bad then is now good. And I don't see any end to this thing until another ethnic group rises up in this country. I don't see any end to it. And heaven forbid that that happens. Because if it happens, dog is going to be better than us. Because I'm going to say, they're here, they are looking at us, they are observing, and they're just waiting and weighing their time. They're waiting and they're weighing their time. We are going to be below the rung of the ladder. We, as a people, have the chance to fix. And a lot of people coming on and they're accusing, and they don't realize that they too are a major problem of the major problem of what is happening. They accuse other people, but they don't realize that they of themselves are a major problem of perpetuating something that they claim is wrong. And when persons decide to say, well, look, this is what the people wanted, this is what we are going to stick fast to, they come and they accuse them of all kinds of things. So something is really wrong with our people. Very, very wrong with the masses of the people. We talk about there's hope in the young people. They're going to bring hope. We cannot have hope in a young people who is uneducated of what is going on. They need to be abreast. They need to keep abreast with what is happening. And they have to listen to everybody. When unity leaders are speaking, they need to listen. When labor people are speaking, they need to listen. CCM, NRP, further field. Because if you're not in a position to, deal with stuff logically, sensibly, you won't make logical, sensible decisions. And we will always be left behind. I know sometimes when some people talk, what they say is above what some people understand. Because some people only can relate at a certain level. And I don't mean this to be, I don't say this to be demeaning, but that is the truth. I'm not demeaning anybody. Because sometimes I listen to how some people talk, and they don't even deal with the issue. They can't deal with the issue. And people who come and talk the issue, they always look at it as the person tearing down the government, tearing down this. It's not a tearing down. I don't understand what happened to people. Mr. Harris and Pam, all of them had, and they say a lot of caustic things about one another. Aren't they together? Aren't they together? And you have all of these other politicians, and then you hear about possible unions of this coming together and all of that. Aren't they together? How is it that we out here ain't really see these things among the politicians? When we come on, and all we can do is keep on dividing and dividing and dividing. People, unity is in office, right? The administration has been extended. Stop all your campaigning, stop all your divisiveness. Let us look at the issues and deal with the issues. Okay? This is the second term now.
Hello, caller.
Hello?
Hi, yes,
All
you're
right,
breaking up.
thanks a lot.
Okay, I just want to ask you one quick question. You there, caller?
This is going to go out.
Okay, all right. No problem. Okay, at this point, we'll take a quick break and we'll come back and we'll try to connect with the Director of Agriculture. Okay, we're just going to take another call before we break. Give this caller the opportunity before we take a break. Caller, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, caller.
Yes, well, I want to say, I know I am bashing nobody, but every time somebody calls to big up the government, some people always come in and talking off anything about them. And everything they say, they're talking to themselves. And they need to let people talk because I don't know what happened to this particular person here, but people need to talk. She don't say what she wants, and I don't say what I want. And at the end of the day, everybody going to support who they want and big up to team unity. Stop trying one on people. Bye.
All right, thank you, caller. And we will hear from our partners right now.
WINN is 98.9. 98.9 is Win FM.
This is an unprecedented announcement from Horseman's. Get up to $30,000 off and pay zero VAT on top of that. It's Horseman's Automotive Unprecedented Sales Event happening now. Yes, for the first time ever, you get up to $30,000 off and pay zero VAT on top of that. Yes, pay zero VAT and get up to $30,000 off on top of that. This has never been seen before. Unprecedented savings at the Unprecedented Auto Sales Event at Horseman's Automotive. Up to $30,000 off and pay zero VAT on top of that. Let me repeat, up to $30,000 off and pay zero VAT on top of that. Don't miss this, it's unprecedented. Terms and conditions apply.
Flo's new combo plan, the people's plan. Combo. New combo plan. You can call anyone, no matter which network you dey on. Just use your Flow.
I want a combo, but not for my belly. I feel me cell phone, so me call anybody. Call Mr. Man, call Granny. On the island, Flow come boom.
Yes, there is no need for to force no more. Cause with Flow combo plan, you're paying less for more.
Flow got a new combo plan. You can call anyone, no matter which network you dey on. Just use your Flow.
Dial star 129 number sign to activate your combo plan today.
Why not stay in? Turn off the alarm clock and sleep some more on your perfect mattress from Quartz. For the widest range of mattresses from the world's best brands, the best value guaranteed. Shop today and let our sleep experts help you to decide on the best option to suit your needs. At Quartz, we don't just sell mattresses, we're offering you the best night's sleep. So, sleep in a little on your new mattress from Quartz. Quartz, bringing value home.
Welcome back to Voices for today, Friday, June 12th. I'm Jermaine Abel, and as promised, we have with us the Director of Agriculture, just to talk a bit about the upcoming hurricane. Well, we're in the hurricane season and the agriculture sector, how they're prepared. Mr. James, good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you, Sir Dr. Abel, and your listeners.
Soon. Just to get a sense from you, we're in the hurricane season. How is the agriculture department and the agriculture sector preparing or has prepared for this particular season? Because we're hearing it's expected to be an above normal or above average season.
Yes, the predictions are for above normal activity. The outlook in terms of temperature right now is above normal high temperatures, and the rainfall for this period is even expected to be below normal rainfall. So for us in the Department of Agriculture, I think it's very paradoxical. It's opposite kind of thing, in that usually at this time of year, farmers cut back on their cultivation, planting in particular, because you're preparing for the hurricane season. But it's different in a sense because coming out of COVID, we had anticipated, or we did not want a situation where the boats with the food had stopped coming. And remember, I need to say it this way, that it's the boats that feed us, because 80% of what we consume, even the fresh produce, seems to come from overseas. So what government did in naming what you call the stimulus package, the idea about the stimulus package was really for us to go quickly and start producing just in case the food boats didn't come. So we started a lot of land preparation and seed sowing. But we were hoping to plant last month, but a lot of that did not happen because it was abnormally dry. So here's the hurricane season catching us just beginning to plant and doing a lot of cultivation at a time when we normally begin to cut back on our cultivation. So we have to be optimistic. Given 3 months, we're hoping that we'll be able to harvest these crops and still at the same time do not go into a second cycle. We at the department, we have already met as a crop staff asking that our farmers continue to listen to the weather bulletin. Those persons who have shade houses, let's take down the mesh. The mesh acts as a sail, and the wind goes through it, and there's lots of unnecessary damage. So we've asked that those are taken down. We continue to emphasize below the ground crops if people are planting outside of the stimulus package. And very importantly, I have put out in the farmers' chat that I think we should be conservative in the land preparation. Again, because of the stimulus, and I have to connect the two, a lot of people are focusing and asking about land preparation. The point that I try to make is that the more we disturb the soil, when the torrential rains come on them, the more they're going to wash away, the less fertile they're going to be for the next season. So we're saying, if you really don't have to, please do not. Persons who already have some soil cultivated, can we work with that? Or can we do what they call minimal tillage? Because, yes, we're cultivating, we're planting, but at the same time, we're getting into the hurricane season. So this time around, it's not as straightforward as before, where we could say, well, look, let us really cease cultivation, let us put away our animals, our tools, and so on. Now it has caught us actively cultivating. So we have to think about conservation measures, and we have to think about timing so that we do not get the adverse effects if we can help it in any way. So this is where we are at this time.
Against that backdrop, the crops currently being planted, if you can just give us a sense of what crops are actually being planted at this point in time, and what time frame we can actually see those crops being harvested.
Well, 3 months. 3 months, June, July, August. Because we sow these seeds, but some of them are actually already 1 month old. And only those persons who have water, irrigation, and those persons who are in the higher elevations have received their seedlings already. We've put a limited quantity of watermelon and squash. We are now planting pumpkins. We have in our nurseries cabbages and sweet peppers. there have been a fair quantity of sweet potato already planted out in the field. Some persons have caught root and are growing. There are others that have been literally burnt, scorched, looking something like when something is destroyed by a fire. And that is because of the soil temperatures. They were planted at a time when it was extremely hot. There was minimal night dew. There was no precipitation to work with. So we've lost a lot of the sweet potatoes. But in some other cases, some of the plants are struggling along. And, this yesterday and today, rain came in some places. We're hoping that that extreme dry weather is about to break and that what we have in the ground will find enough precipitation to mature by July, August.
Well, that's a question I was going to ask you. What impact you're seeing from the current dry spell that we're having? Because rain is in and out, but nothing much to talk about. So in terms of crop losses in the short term, what sort of average has the department seen when it comes to that?
We have not determined or calculated likely losses, but the things which were in the ground before, they will be able to mature. But the real difficulty is with new and young seedlings planted last month and this time without irrigation. There has been minimal growth in some of them, and therefore we don't expect a significant harvest from those at all. It has been an extremely dry period. Normally, in the past, you'd get some precipitation in the month of May. This time, it wasn't. So persons who planted only yams, for example, were able to really stand up, and a few sweet potato. But most of the other crops, they struggled. They still not have any significant vegetation. And so anything harvested right now will not be much. As we say, we're hoping that what we've already sown in the nursery, that some rain would begin, some early rains, and that we'll be able to have a reasonable crop and get them out of the ground before the serious onset of the torrential rains in the hurricane season.
Okay, a two-pronged question. One, in the short term, how is the department working to assist farmers in this specific dry season, or this dry spell in dealing and planting those crops, or those crops that are currently in the greenhouses and so forth, in terms of this dry spell, as well as going forward? Where is the water plan that the Department of Agriculture has been discussing?
We have lots of water plans. We need the plans financed. I could speak of things that has happened in the past, and it would have been good if we could have built on them. Like, for example, we built about 14 dams, averaging about 1 million gallons each. I don't think we have more than 2 or 3 of them functional. For different reasons, some got burned, some got the liners damaged by animals. But either way, we need to take better care of the investments on the ground that are used to solve critical problems like water. Because water is a serious problem in St. Kitts. It's not just an agricultural problem. It's a St. Kitts problem. Very soon, water might become a political issue because in truth and in fact, we seem to have limited resources. You know, we don't have any surface storage, no ponds, no rivers. And the water that we have in the aquifers, we have to use it both for our potable uses, our industrial uses, and our agricultural uses. In countries that have a lot of water in their agriculture, some of them, the largest user of water is agriculture. In St. Kitts, we're perhaps one of the least user. But what we are doing, we in the department, we've written to government asking that we fund some things which we call water harvesting, more of these dams, like bringing back, recommissioning old wells, old catchments. We also have some bigger projects which we are working with some of our allied agencies to seek more international funding, like from Jeff, where you could capture rainwater, store it in maybe balloons or tanks so that agriculture can use it. But in addition to the water, accessing the water itself, we also need persons with the technology where you can use small quantities of water for great results, not just wastewater. And this also applies not only to crops, but to livestock, where we can be efficient in the use of our water. Because we emphasize crops a lot, but the same thing with livestock. All need water, and it's in limited supply, but we all have to find a way to share for the greater good. So there are lots of requests that we're making. Our farmers make a lot of demands on us too. Can you have the water department connect you? But that is only half of the problem. I know the water department cannot connect us all, nor allow us all to just use a lot of water to bring a small amount of results. So it's a balancing act which we're trying to do our part with and encourage our farmers that in addition, once you get water, also apply the techniques and the technology that helps you to use a small amount, maybe recycle it and get the greater, as it were, output from the water going forward.
Okay, for the people listening to this conversation, what can you tell them? Can you assure them that we will have food from June to November's 30th, 31st, 1st of April, June? Yeah, at the end of November, that there will be food in St. Kitts and Nevis that should a hurricane hit, and we don't have to be dependent on imported goods or we have to wait on the boats to come into St. Kitts because the supermarket shelves are empty. Can you assure people that this wouldn't be the case between June and the end of November?
Well, Mr. Abel, I couldn't determine what you should ask. But what we do, we monitor and we encourage. We are not actual farmers. We really got deep into trying to influence what people put in the ground because we said that we did not want to face an issue of starvation because of COVID. What I can tell you is that every year when we monitor what our farmers do, every month things are harvested. Every month things are produced. Our data, I have data in front of me here, going back to 2012. The early part of the year we have more. The latter part of the year we still do have. It is no different this year. So based on that, I feel very confident that we will have food. And again, we say overall, we do about 15 to 20% of our total consumption. I don't see it being any less than that. But in truth and in fact, we still need as a country to come up with a program where we produce a greater quantity of what we need in a very, very, very organized way. We need to organize our marketing, we need to organize our farmers, we need to organize our farming, and even the outlook of the department. All of that needs to be modified so that we can, in fact, give greater assurances of greater output. But as is now, yes, we will have, because farmers continue to plant irrespective of adverse or non-adverse conditions, and each month we have data that indicates that we do harvest, and the same applies in 2020.
Okay, and finally, before I let you go, I have to ask you, how is COVID-19, how is the department dealing with this COVID-19 and still preparing for the hurricane season?
Well, the greatest impacts were at the end of March, April, and we were severely hampered. We were part of the lockdown. Of course, my farmers certainly kicked us for that, and they put a lot of the responsibility on the director. It hampered us a lot in that the farmers could not go out. We continued, the Minister, Mr. Hamilton, and myself, we lobbied in the background, and eventually, after about maybe 3 weeks or so, we were given some partial liberty until eventually we got a lot more scope. So at the time when you were locked in, it hampered us. Farmers lost some of their produce. Monkeys had a free. The pigs, they were able to do as they like. And we lost some food, but not a great deal based on the feedback, the anecdotal feedback I got from farmers. There was losses, but not significant. But since things have been opened up, we have been able to go to our farms, we have been able to visit our farmers, and so that the impacts really have not been as great as in the early part. So overall, we're able to practice, we're able to farm, and, you know, you go to the market, the produce is there. I want to encourage people to shop there in the market, encourage people to buy local. We still do not get a lot of local support until there's a crisis, Mr. Abel. When the boats look like they're not coming, when the hurricane look like they're going to clean up us, people ask, well, what are you doing local? Food takes 3 months. A farmer will be reluctant to plant if he'd have no idea where he's going to get his things sold. We are imperfect, but we're saying, can we get some more local support? The more support we get, the more we can practice, and the greater it is to assure people that food will be available. We need to look into those things.
All right, Mr. James, thanks for joining us here on Voices.
Thanks. Sorry I couldn't stay longer, but I hope that we were able to share information.
Yes, I think you have alleviated some of the concerns that people were expressing when it comes to food and local produce during the hurricane season.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. There you had it. That was the Director of Agriculture, Melvin James, giving us an overview in terms of how the Department of Agriculture is preparing for the hurricane season. Well, we step outside and pay some bills and come right back to Voices.
We're different. We're 98.9. 98.9. Win FM.
Flow helps you stay connected to what matters. Simple plans and a better network mean that you can enjoy 30 days of unlimited social messaging, 10 gigabytes of reliable data to use as you like, and 1,000 local anywhere calls and texts with the always-on prepaid plan, all for $100. Keep your number when you switch to St. Kitts' most reliable LTE network. Switch to Flow. It only gets better.
This is an unprecedented announcement from Horseman's. Get up to $30,000 off and pay zero VAT on top of that. It's Horseman's Automotive Unprecedented Sales Event happening now. Yes, for the first time ever, you get up to $30,000 off and pay zero VAT on top of that. Yes, pay zero VAT and get up to $30,000 off on top of that. This has never been seen before. Unprecedented savings at the Unprecedented Auto Sales Event at Horseman's Automotive. Up to $30,000 off and pay zero VAT on top of that. Let me repeat, up to $30,000 off and pay zero VAT on top of that. Don't miss this, it's unprecedented. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome back to Voices here on Win FM. Well, as we wind down the program, our discussion generally for the better part of the 2 hours, we were focusing on electoral reform and constitutional reform. We also heard in the first hour from our good colleague down in Trinidad about their COVID-19 cases, the impact it had, and the plans for them to reopen that particular country, that territory, and the way forward in terms of COVID-19 down there. They're also in the elections mode, as we heard. The Prime Minister, Keith Rowley, has indicated that elections, he will be proroguing Parliament in July, and elections can be called thereafter, because it's due in September, but the Constitution also allows for a December date in Trinidad and Tobago. And on the local scene, we're still discussing whether or not there should be a fixed election date here in St. Kitts and Nevis. As I posed the question, the callers called in, and it's both administrations, would have said, we prefer a fixed date. So how do we get the government now to install a fixed date? And do you think it will benefit either side, the overseas voters? Who does it benefit? Because as we've heard time and time again, there are complaints that not having a fixed date is benefiting the incumbent at the time when it comes to the whole elections and who can call it. Caller, good afternoon.
Let me just turn on the show. Mr. Abel,
go ahead.
Do you know of any country that has the first past the post, the Westminster system, that has a fixed date for election? Do you know of any?
Not off the top of my head.
None in the Caribbean who are former British colonies who are under the Westminster system. They don't have. Guyana has I don't know if Guyana has, but you could tell me.
A proportional representation. That's what the interview we did earlier this week said.
They said they have a fixed date for election in Guyana?
There's no fixed date.
Okay, good. And they're on proportional
representation
advantage thing, right?
Yes.
Well, okay. Well, I ain't know none. I think this thing about you got to talk about not electoral. We want electoral reform.
Constitutional reform.
The system they set up is not good enough. But we need improvement. But in terms of constitutional changes and so, all this rubbish that some of these people talking. We have our nation is young. Just what from 1983 until now. I mean, the British them don't even have a written constitution. Canada, Australia, New Zealand, all those and others, a lot of African countries, they ain't nothing but no constitutional reform. They carry in the same constitution. Some of them, the former colonies, they have presidency, but in other words, they are republic, but still in the Commonwealth. The Queen is not the Queen. They have their president, whether ceremonial or executive, like Guyana, but they're still in the Commonwealth. Okay? And so I rubbish a lot of the things they say. These are things about constitution or this and that.
So, caller, do you support us having a fixed date for elections?
No, not while we are under the Westminster system. I don't know of any country who does that under the system.
Okay, so if I'm getting from you is you support it, but we should not have it under this system that we have.
Not necessarily support it because, okay, the British don't have it. They had the election last year, and there was always speculation when it would be called. But sometimes you find the Prime Minister would say we'll have an election early, middle fall, or late fall, things like that. And so you have an idea because when you're coming on to the last term, and the last year or so, you step up the activities, and then again, under the Westminster system, a government could fall anytime. A government could fall next week.
Yes, but caller, in that sense, if a government falls early, you put something in your constitution or you legislate to have provide for early elections. So, for example, you cannot go past, for example, the constitution says, the 90 days after, I'm trying to exactly remember what it is, but we knew that at the end of August was the last.
But he never spelled it out like how Dr. Harris did.
Mm-hmm.
And these people here in St. Kitts, the opposition, they fully well know because Douglas did it already. The full extent from when the first parliament met. And they must stop mislead people, tell the truth, and set you free.
Okay, caller, I'll give you 30 seconds. There's another caller coming in. I just want to take that call. So if you could just quickly, so we can out of time.
All right. Have a good day.
All right. I guess the caller was finished making his point. I was giving him 30 seconds to just wrap. But like I said, we focus on that. Somebody was asking on our Facebook Live okay, let me just pull that up directly and read the comment that the person was making. They were not so much in favor of the whole idea of a fixed date. Caller, good afternoon. You're the last caller. Can you keep it tight?
Yes. I don't understand the reasoning that, well, other countries in the Caribbean don't have a fixed date, so we should not have one. To me, that does not make sense. If everybody agrees that a fixed date or not having a fixed date is advantageous to the incumbent government, shouldn't we want fairness across the board, right? And just have a fixed date. I mean, I don't see the problem with that. There's no reason why we must do what other countries are doing. We do what's best for us, right? And like I said, I don't know the advantage, okay, of having a fixed date, except for, of course, if you're an incumbent, right? So let's make it fair and have a fixed date. And our electorate has really changed, and the lady, an earlier caller, alluded to this, and we're going to have to do some soul searching to see if actually it has really changed for the better, because some of these things, if half of the things that seem to have gone on in this election are true, then I think we're going down a wrong road. But that's a discussion for another time. But, definitely when it comes to the fixed date, I think we should really consider it, take some of the surprise and all this money out of the elections, okay? And let's have a fair election. All right.
All right, thanks, caller. Well, we're out of time, but I'll squeeze in this last caller. We're out of time, but I'll squeeze this last person in. Caller, good afternoon. Can you be really, really quick in terms of making your point? We're out of time.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. I'm sorry that I got to get you so late, but
it's
I
okay.
just want to tell you that I'm a hard-working guy in this Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. I try to encourage young people, empower them. I come up hard with my mother, and I am the only successful one out of 14 of us. Some of them is teach, some of them is secretary and working in different places, and I am one of the most successful one out of 14 of my mother children. Them that might own property and everything. I don't have to depend on the government on nothing at all for the government. I don't even know none of the ministers' them number. I speak out because when I say good for my country, I speak out for it. You understand? I'm a hard-working guy in this Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. So no one could come on and try to lambaste me and say all kind of technical words against me. I'm a hard-working guy. But I don't mean you have a wonderful day, God bless.
All right, thanks, caller. Well, that caller shared his views there. But I was making one point as I quickly wrap up here on Voices. The person was saying on our Facebook page that you have 19 days between when the House was dissolved. 14 days is enough time for anyone who wants to vote in our elections. That is, they're referencing when the Prime Minister dissolved Parliament to when he announced the date for elections. You can't set a specific date for elections. What if there is a vote of no confidence and the government loses? Well, in that case, I'm just going to respond to this quickly, is that I know that provisions would be made for elections to be called ahead of time, but it's just that you have a date that you cannot go past this specific date when we talk about the whole issue of fixed date for elections anywhere, whether it be in St. Kitts and Nevis or throughout the Caribbean. And that was Voices for today. We discussed a range of issues here on the program, but that was our program for today. We're over time, so thanks for joining us, and do stay tuned as we continue with our programming here on Win FM. We have the news at 6 and sports there after the news. But that's it for Voices today on Win FM.
WINN is 98.9. 98.9 is Win FM.
This is an unprecedented announcement from Horseman's. Get up to $30,000 off and pay zero VAT on top of that. It's Horseman's Automotive Unprecedented Sales Event happening now. Yes, for the first time ever, you get up to $30,000 off and pay zero VAT